Yeah, Kevin Hart, your tequila is not the best.
Not the wave. Oh my god. Hey there.
Howdy, King.
Gang. How's it going?
How you doing?
Welcome to Coming Up for Air, an introspective podcast. I'm your co-host, Jackson.
I'm your co-host, Brendan.
Yeah, and today we're talking about how to deal with a broken heart. Achy breaky.
Again.
I
feel like we've talked about it a couple of times. But this is like post, this is healed era, you know?
Post-heart clarity.
Yeah, basically. Fuck the nut, you know what I mean? We're post-heartbreak clarity. And really see everything for what it is now. So, we're healed. You know what I mean? We're finally there. We can say that. I can say that. I really think I can. Genuinely.
Okay.
We can talk about it. We really can.
We have a whole podcast to talk about.
we can really talk about it.
Before we do that, let's do a check-in. Brendan?
Oh, yes, that's right. I just wanted to make sure. Hey, bro, I told you.
I'm writing up the script for the episode, and he spends 5 minutes looking at clips and laughing at them about his topic.
Listen, bro. All right. So I wanted to talk about. It was Theoism, right? So you know who Bert Kreischer is, right? The machine.
No.
You don't know who Bert Kreischer is?
No.
Comedian, big fat white guy. Always. No. Oh, dude, he literally takes his shirt off every show. It's just it's great content. He's hilarious. Anyway, he was on this. He was on a podcast with, I forgot who, to be honest with you. I forgot their name and their podcast. Tough. But he was like, yeah, you know, me and the homies, he was like, you know, one day after a show, we just got super faded. And he was like, and then we just started doing Theoisms, right? And if you know who Theo Vaughn is, right, he's been getting like a lot of attention lately, just going super viral for like saying the most like, in the most respectful way, like, as I can say this, like, this is the best way you can. He says the most, like, in the most, like, hillbilly, like, southern, like, redneck, like, accent, like, it is just, like, super stereotypical, and he just tells, like, these outlandish ass stories that you're like, there's no way that you could possibly come up with these stories. They have to be true, but they're also so outlandish that you have to be lying.
He's just out of pocket all the time.
And not even in a bad way. Like, not even in a canceling way. It's just, like, in a genuinely, like, I don't know where he comes up with this shit. So, Bert Kreischer, he was like, you know, me and my friends have decided to do, like, Theoisms. So, like, right, you get this, like, southern accent. And you're like, all right, I'm trying to think about a story. He was like, I probably should pull up the clip, but they basically, like one of the clips that Theo says is like, you know, one time I had this like after party and they asked me to go partying with them, and he was like, only if my friend can. And I looked to the corner, and it's this random ass hobo. he gives him a random ass name, and he's like, that's my fucking dude right there. I'm gonna need him to get in the car with us, right? And they're all like, sure, fuck it. Random ass homeless dude. He walks up to him and is like, hey bro, you want to party? The best time of your life? Dude's like, sure. Hops in a fucking limo with them, and they go and party. Like, it's just like random ass shit like that you could just basically just like put together and just pull out of your ass. Just like doing like the most like, obviously his name was like some random like you would just never think about it type shit. It's just the way he kind of puts it together. It's just it's like pure comedy. You know what I mean? Like, for me, like, it's the stupid ass shit that I think I laugh at the most, because my sense of humor is about the size of like a rice grain. You know what I mean? I literally laugh at anything.
So Brendan didn't tell me anything about this before we started. Was the point that you just wanted to talk about how cool this guy is?
Not only that, but I wanted to talk about that the whole point of like Theoisms. Like, if I start like just pulling shit out of my ass in a southern accent, like, just know that this is where that came from. Like, I'm going to start sending you clips. I'm going to start sending the whole group clips, right? Because I think it would be hilarious. I think Hefe and Cam know who Theo Von. They have to know who Theo Von is. There's no way that they don't. I just think it would be a fantastic. Like, imagine the whole D&D table with just Southern accents talking about a bunch of random bullshit.
I could make a comment here.
But
it feels a bit rude.
we if you want to, you can. You don't have to. If you want to hurt some people's feelings, you can.
All I'm saying is, for people to do that, they have to not be on their phone the whole session.
True. Understandable. Just leave it at that.
Yeah. I mean, there's only one person who really isn't.
You?
Aside from me.
Oh. Yeah, no, I feel you. I've tried to be better about it.
Brendan's like, this just got really real.
It's okay though. I think the thought and creation behind Theoism and just like Theo Von as a person, he's just pure genuine happiness. You know what I mean? I think you should check him out. So yeah, I guess I kind of wanted to talk about how cool he was, how funny he was.
All right,
it was a great time. Like, I literally get pure like just dopamine from this man, and I need to share this with everyone. The fact that you don't know who he is kind of just breaks my heart.
Why? You also watch people like Joe Rogan and people who would have him on that. I don't.
Facts. Yeah, I know. It's also weird to me that Joe Rogan's a very like. It's either you like him or you don't. There's no like people who are like, I kind of fuck with him.
Why do you think that is?
I don't, bro. Like, I've never seen like something that's like, he's a shitty ass human being. I don't know why people wouldn't like him. And I think that's only because of the shit that I've seen, maybe. I haven't been exposed to, like, I guess the other side to him, if there is another side.
The down and dirty.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And, like, you know, the shit behind all that. And, like, obviously I know nobody's perfect, but, like, obviously the content that I've seen from him is, like, it's good content. You know what I mean? Like, it's not all stupid ass shit with Theo Von, you know what I mean? But, like, he has some, like, scientists on there that talk about some, like, crazy ass shit. And, like, some neuroscientists that talk about, like, oh, like, if you want to improve your life, like, you do these things and, you know, yada, yada. It's scientifically proven to help you out. You know, you eat these things, do these things. You know, like, he has cool-ass people on there that, like, genuinely benefit society. I just haven't seen, like,
I don't necessarily hate him or think that he's a bad person. I just don't particularly care for him.
And that's completely respectable, understandable. I just
content's just not for me, which is fine.
Yeah, I mean, they talk about pyramids and a bunch of conspiracy theories, so I can understand it.
Yeah. And I think that's most of what it is that a lot of people think that he's kind of just like a fucking psycho.
And he's really not. I wouldn't say he's crazy. That's like we're not gonna get into it. I'm not gonna say that shit. We're not gonna get into it. But it's fine. What about you, dog?
So I am kind of in a weird spot when it comes to my work. And that I was offered a promotion, and I'm kind of on the waiting table of what's going on with that. But I am a person who's been in a lot of management positions, and I am kind of also a type of person who's like, okay, I need to make money. I need to have what I'm doing be worth the amount of pay that I am getting for the amount of work that I will do, or the amount of work that I feel like I bring to the table. So I kind of want to just talk about, like, getting your worth in, dog. Like, if you are in this position, and funny enough, my roommate is also in the same position. He just got offered a promotion. He doesn't really want it, but I said, oh, does it pay more? And he's like, yeah, but I don't know how much more. I was like, okay, well, it sounds like you have room to kind of push that envelope, and then if you don't like the amount that they say, then you can just be like, hey, the amount of work that I will uptake for the amount of pay you are compensating with isn't worth it for me, so I'm going to respectfully decline. And I think I had a conversation with another friend, and then also with my significant other, and I kind of was talking about what I wanted to do and trying to figure out if I wanted to stay or leave, depending on how much they pay me. Is like, I will stay if they pay me good. And then if they don't, I'm bouncing out and stuff. Just because of the work environment and the amount of hours and whatever, right? But just shit.
Which is stupid shit.
Yeah. And so I was talking to her about the way I was kind of wanting to go into the conversation of being like, hey, I have another job opportunity. Like, this is kind of what I want. She's like, I think that that's a bad idea because you are going in telling them, like, you are not my primary option, or like, I'm going to leave. And I was like, I think that you're misunderstanding the principle, which is that I'm trying to light a fire in the ass and say, hey, I know what my work is worth and what me being here is worth, and I want to be properly compensated for that.
Yeah. You know what your time and, effort and energy is worth.
Yeah.
And, respectfully, you should be paid as so.
Yeah, and I got in that conversation with a friend, too, of being like, them kind of being like, isn't it kind of weird that you're demanding a certain amount of money, or saying, like, this is the amount of money that I will work for? And they were like, doesn't that make you scared that they're going to retaliate or, like, fire you for being unrealistic? And I was like, if a company fires you for saying, hey, or for them saying, hey, you're up for a promotion, and then you saying, okay, I will take it, but under the circumstances that I get this amount of money because I'm up taking more responsibility and my, whatever changes.
Yeah, and, you feel that getting paid this amount is fair.
Yeah. Especially
knowing the work.
The amount of ambiguous work is also included in that job of, like, you are not sure if they are going to ask you to do more than you originally were pardoned to do.
Yeah, and like, consideration, like, especially in the restaurant industry, like, the stress that it has on the mental and physical.
So they were like, I just think that it's kind of weird and kind of like could be a really bad sign for a boss whenever you ask for a certain amount. And I'm here to say, welcome to the 21st century, okay? Like, we live in an age where it is completely normal. People don't even put in their 2 weeks anymore because jobs are you are so quote unquote replaceable in a job environment.
Yeah, most places you put in your 2 weeks, they're like, bro, don't even worry about it.
And so if you are so quote unquote replaceable, if you are so nothing to this company, then why do they work so hard to keep you there? Why do they constantly have staffing issues? Why are you constantly struggling to maintain, like, the amount of workers that you need to work fluidly? You are not that replaceable. Yes, you are, but not the exact skill set you have or whatever you bring to the table. So rep that shit. Get your money's worth. That being said, if you just start at a place, like, you kind of have to work with your contract, know what you're doing. If it's like a trade where it's like, I went to school for this, it's a little different than being like, I go to the local Arby's and go, I want this money,
Yeah, or like, that's why, like, even, a lot of people see, like, In-N-Out managers make, like, $100K a year, but they also don't understand that those managers work, like, anywhere from 65 to 70 hours a week.
Yeah, kind of.
And well, that's the last that I've heard. I had a homegirl who was running through manager and doing all that, and she was like, "Bro, I work anywhere from 60 to 70 hours a week, and I'm always like here, like I live here."
Sometimes it also depends on your location,
and how busy it is.
Yeah, and a lot of other stuff also.
Yeah, but they like In-N-Out's the type of business that, like, if you're an asset and you're making their restaurant run efficient and making them money, they are more than willing to pay you. You know what I mean? And I kind of see, like, what position you're in, because I'm low-key in the same position, like, working for my dad. Because seeing where I'm getting paid right now, like, where we're at is I technically am the only person in the warehouse to know both sides.
Yeah.
And, like, understand the computer work for both sides. Mm. But my 90 days isn't even up till February.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it, obviously, like, I can't just walk in there and be like, I deserve to get paid this much. You know what I mean? Like, I barely know what the fuck I'm doing, but I also know that I know a little bit more than everybody else back there. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, when you understand your worth and you know, like, who you are as a human being, and what you can, bring to the table, whether it be to a business, work related, even like friendships, relationships, yada yada. Like, it's just knowing, like,
get your money, get, like, it is
get
okay,
compensated.
Yeah, it is okay to set a standard that you want met.
Yeah, bro, like have your line set, you know what I mean? And then like even if not in a money sense of being compensated like for money, being compensated with time, effort, and energy being matched to what you're putting in. So whether it be the workplace, whether it be, you know, at home, whether it be with friends, relationship, like whatever it is.
Well, it's funny because when I was talking to my dad about it, I was like, if they don't pay me this amount, like I'm going to leave. And then he was like, well, wouldn't it be nice to have like the stable income and like, you know, you could get moved up to that amount of pay in a couple months time. And I was like, yeah, but also if I'm miserable working,
it's not worth it.
It's not worth it unless I'm getting this amount of money and I can also kind of just be like, okay, I'm going to go into work. Yeah, it might suck for a little bit, but I'm going to tune out and it might get better as I work. Yeah. Whereas if I enter this situation not getting paid well, then I'm going to be like, I'm not getting paid well. I still don't enjoy work and maybe I'll enjoy it in a couple months. Like,
yeah, it's just, it's always like those stabs in the dark, especially with like knowing how management is and knowing how like the prior, kind of like the paper trail, the rap sheet, and how the company speaks for itself. Like 9 times out of 10, you kind of know like if a company is going to jack you over and if you have to be more stern or kind of like more like in control of that negotiation. Because if you're in a company that willingly knows you're an asset, knows that you're worth the money, they'll be like, yeah, for sure, I got you.
Also talk about your wages with your coworkers. It's okay.
Yeah, bro, let them know, because then a coworker might realize, like, yo, I'm definitely getting underpaid, and I do like maybe like 2 less things than this person. They're getting paid hella guap.
Yeah, it's okay to talk about pay. I think it's very okay for your pay to be public information to your coworkers, especially if a coworker either wants to get to that level of pay or wants to understand why somebody's achieved a level of pay or whatever. Like, but I think that it's telling that at our old job, it's a known thing that whenever you reach like the next step up in management, it's like you get 50 cents more. And that deterred so many people because everybody was very public about the pay.
Yeah. And it's, well, not only a public about fuck it, bro. Dutch Bros, when you're a broista and you go up to shift lead
in the section we work, it's different for other places
in the area
region.
Yeah. In the region we work, right. You only go up when you move up into a management position of basically running a whole shift and telling people, you know, hey, we're doing this.
In charge of where they go, when they're there.
You have to worry about, like, if stock comes in on your shift, like, you know, putting it away. Like, you'll have to have people, you know, off of, you know, shift
position.
Yeah, and, like, there's so much that goes into, like, running a shift.
Like, managing if customers are dissatisfied, when something gets cleaned, what needs to get cleaned. It got worse after you left. That's what I say. Too.
No, yeah. And like if you run out of something, having to contact 60 different fucking managers to try and get something from a different stand. Or you have
to buy it yourself.
Or you have to go to the store and buy it yourself.
To get compensated in your next check, maybe.
If they remember.
And if not, then it's 2 checks later.
And
sometimes it's buying like almost $100 and some odd worth of ice.
Yeah, and
your ice machine doesn't work,
and so you only get a $50 raise, right? And probably
50 cents.
Or 50 cents, wow.
$50 would be crazy.
$50 would be nuts. So a 50-cent raise, but you get basically like a whole nother person's workload. You know what I mean? Like you now have 2 workloads and it's not worth just 50 cents. So, and in that, like,
not to mention you're kind of also working when you're not on the clock too.
Yeah. If you're in a very hot, dry desert state and there's a Dutch Bros in your state, right? Do yourself a favor. Be a little bit nicer to them, bro, because I promise you, they're getting underpaid to deal with a lot of fucking bullshit, bro.
Anyway.
That's our little speech.
So yeah, know your worth. It's okay to negotiate and be like, hey, I want this. The worst thing somebody can say is no. And if they're like really fucked up about it, then maybe it's time that you leave anyway. But if they're like, hey, you've been working, if they try to be like pretty chill about it, be like, hey, you've been here for 6 months and your work does not equivalate to the amount that you're asking for, isn't equivalent to that amount. Like, you know, kind of got to work with them at that point.
Yeah. And then you kind of see like, all right, well, what, you know, at what point and what are you expecting for me to be paid this much? You know what I mean?
Mini life lesson. Let's dive in.
Gang shit.
So Brendan, you mentioned this topic.
Yeah. Basically like being in your like like the post break, like heartbreak. But like, I don't know if you've been along with the podcast and episodes, you've seen kind of like where we started. I was in a very like hateful spot in my life, especially towards like relationships and women, just because I had gotten my heart broken. And I think like as the podcast has moved on and, you know, time has kind of passed on, you can kind of see how like I'm slowly like, I guess, getting there, on just like understanding like my trauma, coming to terms with it, healing from it, and then not blaming the fucking world for everything that happens to me.
Yeah. I think that one of the most common things that happens when you experience heartbreak is it's kind of like grieving, in the sense that like you will go through those steps, the, you know, the denial, the anger, the bargaining, and then like the sadness, and then acceptance. And sometimes it's really rapid because it's not necessarily always the same, but to a lot of people, and most of the time, though there is outliers, heartbreak and breaking up, or, you know, splitting ways with somebody, is like them kind of fading from your world. It is societally wise, regardless of my opinion, the standard that like you are probably not going to be in that person's life anymore.
I think just the act of losing somebody in general, like it's not even like, and I know like I feel like for me, I'm always talking about like heartbreak like in a sentimental way, and like in a like a relationship-esque. Like you can get your heart broken even in a friendship. Like when you lose a homie, that probably even hurts worse than letting your significant other walk out. You know what I mean? Like losing a real close homie is easily probably one of the worst feelings.
I mean, that's what I've been through this past year. You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of something that I've had to deal with and kind of come to terms with and be like, okay, you know, whenever one of my relationships ended, I kind of lost somebody with it. If you want to get really technical, I kind of lost two people, but and that relationship is still very much fractured.
Mm-hmm.
And that one I think hurt more than
the actual relationship.
Yeah. Partly, there's so much there that's really, really personal. That's probably not something I should talk about publicly.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
But, and it's still stuff that I'm kind of dealing with. Like, even...
It's still open wound.
Yeah, you know, and it's something that is very much a conversation that I'm having with myself and sometimes with other people, where I'm trying to figure out, like, my place. And it is rapidly changing with this person of how I feel about them and, you know, whatever, right? It's complicated to have heartbreak in friendships because you have to pick when it's time to step away also, because if that person isn't fully leaving and they end up being like, you know, at a point where they can come back, it is still you having to grieve and kind of deal with the heartbreak and either like accept, forgive, and move on, or stay in it and kind of be like, I don't really know because of whatever reason. Or you've done this to me, so like, how can I know that this is like, you've shown me that you don't give that much of a shit.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be. Yeah, but heartbreak is kind of like grieving. And I want to say that because one of my points when it comes to dealing with heartbreak, and the reason why Brennan is kind of also looking at me, is because of the two of us, I am the one who is more relationship inclined.
Yeah, Jackson's a hot boy. He's out here. You know what I mean? Like he has people fall in love with him left and right. You know what I mean? He just doesn't say it much. No, and I mean Jackson's more of like when it comes to relationships, Jackson's definitely more mature in that sense than I am when it comes to like understanding when something ends and starts, and like the process of it, and like like sometimes it may be like more difficult than others, but he's definitely better about just like life has to go on. Like you're gonna kind of like go through shit, and
I think that's due also in part. I don't think that a lot of people necessarily are always like that. and I think part of it is in fact, or in part due to things that have happened in my life.
I was gonna say in that kind of cool, because it's the same thing with Josh. We like just the idea of loss. Josh has to me, like, Josh has always been very passionate about losing somebody because he's lost so many people in his life. When he takes a loss very like emotionally, and you know, he's like that, like whether it be somebody like he hasn't been close with or even somebody he's super close with, he still takes them, like whether they pass or just kind of like exit their life, he still thinks about them like in a very serious, like,
yeah, it's hard not to, and it's something that's kind of complicated to explain to somebody who either hasn't dealt with loss or hasn't.
And that's always been my thing, because anytime it comes to death or anytime it comes to like losing somebody, I'm always very nonchalant or very kind of like lackadaisical about it.
Or even people who have just lost, like, you know, I lost my family member that I didn't really talk to, and I lost them really young, so I didn't know them anyway.
Yeah, like I've been very fortunate to not have lost anybody who's like super, I guess, insanely impactful, like an idol to me, or like, you know, like a hero to me, you know what I mean? Like knowing, like I can never say I relate or know what you feel when you talk about your grandfather. You know what I mean? Because like for me, like I wish, like, and not that I wish I could understand, but almost like you almost value loss, and you kind of take grieving more into consideration and really understand like what it is to like lose somebody. And for me, like I'm almost just like cold-hearted about it.
When it comes to my grandfather, I lost two people. Like I lost another person and my grandfather at the same time. And, you know, it's like, I'll just like say it on the pod, it's fine. But like when I lost my grandfather, my uncle was involved, so I also lost him. And so, and my uncle in my like earlier years was the person who taught me like about video games and like some like war strategy board games. And then, you know, poker is like a big thing for me, and he taught me that. And we would go, you know, grab pizza together and play in an arcade and stuff. And so there's stuff from my past that is like so rooted with him and important to me. So I lost two people at that point, and while one of them felt like kind of just the nail in the coffin and saying goodbye, the other one was like a very sudden loss for me. And so along with that, before, when I was in high school, or I guess like right when I was entering high school, I lost 4 friends over the summer. And it was a really rough summer. It was like one of the hardest times of my life. And it's crazy to kind of think about the fact that one of the things that a lot of people don't really talk about when it comes to losing people is kind of like, you forget. You can't hear their voice. You can't see all of their face fully unless you look at a picture sometimes. Like, the things fade. It's just like, you know, talking to somebody who you haven't talked to in years. Like, you know, even if your best friend, it kind of fades away. When it comes to my grandfather, I can only hear his voice kind of in one phrase. And that's it. And it's because that's like one of the most things that he would say constantly. And that's pretty much all that I can remember. And it's something that's kind of weird and hard. And I know this isn't necessarily on topic.
Well, no, I mean, technically it is, because like,
it is heartbreak. You know?
Yeah, you know what I mean, and you know, and I didn't want this to kind of like focus on just like a pure relationship aspect, because I feel like there's many times, like especially in past episodes, where we have kind of like really zoned in on
relationships.
Yeah, so this is more of just like just dealing with like heartbreak and loss, and like just what it is to like actually cope with it and heal with it, and like, you know, after it.
I think that one thing that has kind of set me apart, because I'm quirky, in like a understanding kind of how to deal.
Oh, that threw me off so bad, bro. I did not expect that.
How to have clarity in those situations and kind of like cope with it, is because my first losses were when I was so young, and then my like more important losses where it really like hit me were when I was a little bit older. is that in both instances, or all instances, I should say, I really didn't get any clarity or closure. You know, you don't always get closure. And this goes for relationships too. You know, one of the biggest struggles for me whenever I've ended a relationship is, or vice versa, is wanting closure. And when it comes to that, like, you need to understand, you need to either go into that situation or become self-aware in that situation of, like, if you are longing for closure, if that's the only way you'll move forward and you keep telling yourself that, your mind is everything. It will completely dictate whether or not that's true. Because 9 times out of 10, you don't get it. There's no closure. There's no way that you can go talk to that person. There's no way to possibly find a way to have somebody tell you, hey, this is why this happened. And this is why exactly for a fact this person did this. Because I could sit there and tell you anything that you want to hear. But unless you believe that's the reason, unless I can somehow convince you that that's the closure you're looking for. Because the closure you actually want is you don't want it to be true.
Yeah, and
you don't want to feel it anymore.
And I think, you know, when you say that, like, when it comes to convincing and, like, obviously believing what we want, I think a lot of people even have the hard time or, like, struggling with, like, obviously, like you said, like, I don't want something to be so true that I'm going to believe the complete opposite, or I'm going to put something else in my head that makes more sense than this bullshit that's happening. Because, like, I was definitely the same way, where I was like, nah, like, fuck that, like that can't be the scenario. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like this can't be the issue. Like, there's just no way.
Yeah, and your mind is so powerful, and you will
create the most outlandish things to yourself.
It's the same premise that everybody in general seems to be able to agree with, which is fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
The problem is that mentality applies to everything.
Yeah, as much as you can tell yourself, like, oh, I'm this big, you know, boss, I'm this big hot shot, until you actually get there and you do make it, just on the opposite end, you can tell yourself, like, this is the craziest thing, or, you know, I believe that this happened, like, yada. At some point, your mind is going to tell you that it is true, because you keep telling yourself that, and you're just going to convince yourself. Because, like Jackson said, like, our minds really are that powerful. Like, you will convince yourself of anything you believe if you put enough mind power into it. And that's what people don't realize, because we just waste our shit on a bunch of irrelevant ass shit that, you know, keeps us trapped down or keeps us in a certain mindset.
Have you heard? I don't know what the actual name for it is, but I learned it as the Bueller's theory. It's a reference to Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So in Ferris Bueller's Day Off movie, from the, I'm going to say 90s, but I think it's actually late 80s.
I feel like it's early 90s.
It might be early 90s, and I'm just fucking up. Anyway, but Ferris Bueller phone call says that he's sick, basically, to get out of school. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole premise. And then it's an adventure, right? The whole idea is that if you call somebody and say, like, oh, like, I just can't come in, or, like, you know, hey, man, sorry to bail, like, I'm sick. You are going to get sick within the next couple of days.
Yeah. Like, something's actually going to happen.
Like, you are actually going to get sick because you've now
spoken it into existence.
Created that mindset of, like, oh, I'm sick, and the next time I see this person, they're going to ask me how I'm feeling.
Yeah, so now you have to kind of, like,
so now
almost
you are
like
going to develop getting sick.
Yeah.
And so it's like this weird, like, theory, kind of like our mentality of, like, literally that. And you can kind of
a placebo.
You can
basically placebo effect.
A placebo is something that just isn't happening. A placebo is like, I take this pill that's just candy. Like, there's nothing involved in it.
And you act like you're,
and
like,
it's like ibuprofen.
Yeah,
and somebody tells me, here, this is pain medicine, and then you pop it, you know, and then you're like, oh, I feel better. When in actuality, like, it is just
candy.
Yeah, it's just your brain telling yourself, like, I will feel better because of this.
Yeah.
Which gets into a whole lot of stuff that kind of freaks me out about, like, medicine and the industry. Anyway. Oh.
He said, oh.
Yeah, no, but it's
mainstream, like, pharmaceuticals and all that.
Yeah, big pharma coming after us for that one. Sheesh, man.
We're gonna get a call from somebody. It's gonna be like an unlisted number. I need you to take down that fucking episode right now.
Get it off the air. Get it off the Or what's the meme from Star Wars where it's fucking Kylo Ren and he's like, shoot that hunk of metal out of the sky.
Oh man. Speaking of, I think I have something for you.
You have something for me?
Anywho, but yeah, I think we've talked about kind of obviously going through the process of like being heartbroken, what it consists of, what it, the kind of realm of it, in each kind of lane. And I think the biggest thing of getting over that hurt or getting over that broken heart is, I think the first step is genuinely like you have to face yourself. Like you have to.
Why did this happen?
You almost have to like. What I actually did, I'm not gonna lie to you. It really did help. If you write down the scenario that you're in, or just type it out, and you put different names in there, that whether they be homies or like, and you spell out this entire situation, right? And you sit back and you look at it, and you now put yourself in an outside perspective. This has nothing to do with you. What would you tell your homie?
Yeah.
Right?
Azrael walked into the ball and started dancing with Grizzly.
Yes, you know what I mean. And I hate you for that. And so, once you kind of sit back and you really see the situation for what it is, and you're like, all right, well, this is kind of fucked up. All right, well, this person's wrong. All right, well, maybe they shouldn't have done that. All right, well, and then you start to realize, oh, I'm fucking up. Or
you also need to understand you are writing it from your perspective, so there are all still going to be things that either you have left out from your mind because, like,
you were just like,
that's just how it works,
Or there was things that you don't know about on the other end
as well. And that's why kind of like the why do these things happen question can sometimes be dangerous.
It's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, because like when it comes to relationships, I think that it's really difficult. I think it's in all situations, like even when people die, like in the situation of my grandpa, one of the most dangerous questions that my grandma asked me was like, why did this happen? Because when everything happened, she kind of turned to me for a lot of it. Like me and her got really close, and it's like, and she still struggles with it now. Like, am I just a bad mother? Like, cause look, this, and this, and it's like, sometimes it's just people. It's just the world moves, and if it's like, oh, my person got sick and now they've passed away because of that. It's like, sometimes it's just how the world goes.
Yeah,
and
it's just
when it comes to relationships, when you ask that question, I think it's a lot easier to write down and be like, okay, this is what the relationship was like. But also you need to understand that sometimes whenever a person says, hey, I'm just not in it anymore, they're just not in it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have a hard time swallowing that pill of like,
must have done something.
Yeah, or like sometimes people will genuinely, like, shout out to the people who genuinely can go up to somebody and be like, I'm going to be honest with you, bro. I'm really not feeling this no more. Because you are the most honest, like, straight up, like, you're trying, that's literally the best decision you could do for somebody. Because if now it's completely on, like, the ball's in their court how they react to it. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, a lot of people initially are going to have, oh, it's me, I did something wrong, what did I do, I can fix it.
The alternative? Oh, there's somebody else, I know there's somebody else, you've been acting distant, you've been around this person. Yeah,
and it's just automatic, and that's the disbelief, that's the I'll believe anything else except this crazy ass situation because there's no way that it could have happened to me. I never saw this coming.
Why couldn't they like me?
Yeah, like what's wrong with me?
Clearly,
like
I'm not good enough.
There's so much negative.
Which stems from an insecurity issue, by the way.
Yeah, and that fire is so quick to be lit that people don't take the time to take a step back and be like I promise you would shock more people if your person came to you and was like, hey, I'm really not feeling it, and be like, all right, bro, don't worry about it. Dap him up. Oh, my bad, little dude. Right? The way you dap him up and walk away, that person's probably going to be like,
all right.
Either they're going to be like, okay, or they're going to be like, what did I just do? Like,
because also being in that person's situation, I think society has deemed like you were supposed to react negatively to a breakup.
Yeah.
So whenever a person doesn't react that way,
It's
you're
like
they didn't care.
yeah, automatically now this person is upset and offended.
Yeah. Or they'll be like, hey,
shit happens.
piece of cake.
Yeah, like,
Piece of cake.
all right,
It
we're
went
good.
well. Hell yeah.
Yeah. So how'd your breakup go? I told them I didn't want to be with them. They said okay.
They dabbed me up and walked away.
They're like, you're lying.
It's like, it was sick. My grandma always tells this story about me. And I think about it now when it comes to like breakups and stuff. And it's this. My grandma, when I was younger, my grandma got saddled with taking me to go get my flu shots.
Got what?
Saddled with taking me to go get my flu shots.
The fuck?
She got stuck with me.
I was
So
like,
she was taking me.
I was
to
like,
go get my flu
saddled.
shots,
I was
right?
like, did you guys ride in on a horse or something?
Yeah. Because this was so long ago. This was way, way back before cars were around.
Yeah, I mean, you're literally like black and white days, you know, like the
Yeah, yeah. I'm when never mind. I can't think of anything. I'm from the Mesopotamia era and before. Anyway, so she throws me on the back of the horse and we start riding to ye old wherever the fuck we had to go to get these shots, right? We go get the shots and then they tell her, hey, he has to get 4 shots. And she's like, what the hell? No way I got stuck with this. He's going to think I'm a monster. So, like, you know, we do it. Put Band-Aids on. And I'm just sitting there. I'm strong. I'm sitting there. Cold stone killer. You know, I'm just
not
like,
me. I hated needles, bro. I was the kid screaming like they had to drag me by my feet to come back in. Like I'm like around the fucking like I'm that kid, bro. You could
got
ask
that possession,
bro.
strength.
I had to get a shot in my ass because I was prone to strep, and they had to put a shot in my ass. When I tell you, my mom got to a point where she sat down and called my dad and was like, "Talk to your son." I hear my dad like, bro, you don't get your fucking ass in a goddamn seat and get the fucking needle, bro. My whole panic and everything was just like. Sat in the seat, bro. Got the shot. Oh, like, and I sat there, bro. Got the shot. Freaked out in the car on the way home, bro.
Yeah, so I was Stone Cold Killer, right?
Oh,
Stone
I
Cold
wish.
Killer. The nurse is like, oh, your grandson's so sweet, so well behaved, right? And I was like, I guess so. We walk out. We get outside. We get in the car, and she's like, you're really quiet, Jax. Are you okay? And I just start sobbing. I'm like, no, I'm not. It hurts. Like, I love this story and I hate it because she always tells it whenever I bring people around. But it also leads to my punchline, which I always do after she finishes the story, which is, yeah, you keep it cool when everybody's around, and then you can break down, you can throw your tantrum, you can let it all out as soon as you've got your moment, you know? Because in breakup situations, sometimes the easiest thing for you to do or heartbreak situations is be like,
Play it cool.
yeah, just be like, okay, I understand.
And that's not even in like, that's not even in just like breakup situations. In most scenarios that are like supposed to be chaotic, sporadic, whatever, negative, or even like just catches you by surprise, 9 times out of 10, if you play those situations calmly, collectively,
And just be like, okay, it's okay.
9 times out of 10, the reaction that you'll get would be the complete opposite of what you would think.
Yeah.
And you might not only get more respect, you will end up probably with the most power by the end of that conversation or whatever it may be. And respectfully, you are now being looked at as like, oh, like this dude's got their fucking shit together.
And 9 times out of 10, there's always a possibility you can have the conversation you feel like you have to have right this second down the line. You know, whenever emotions are settled. Because that's also the thing is that happens, immediately your emotions are on 10. You are going to do things, say things, try and bargain. All of it is going to come out in the nastiest way possible. And not only in a breakup situation will it make that person go, damn, I'm right. But it'll also not put them in a position where they might just be like, yeah, let's get back together, because they don't want to be confronted with this problem anymore.
Yeah, and not only that, but like when you have somebody who's acting out of emotion, you control them. Point blank, period. If I get somebody and I say some shit to trigger you, and I now have you screaming and fucking, rah, 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 I now control you as an entire human being, because whatever I say is going to get you so out of character that you're just going to say whatever, you're going to spew out whatever, and that's everything that I want to hear, because now you're just going to lay everything out on the table. So if you're more emotionally just not, you don't have to just bottle everything up. You don't have to be emotionally dead, but it's about keeping your emotions in check, learning when and how to deal with them is so vital.
Yeah.
In any aspect, whether it be,
which is the whole point of, like, you know, play it cool, and then you get to the point where you can kind of freak out, you can vent, you can, like, you know, be upset, then do it.
Yeah, because there's times, like, with heartbreak, again, where the relationship, loss, grieving, friendship, there's going to be a time and place where you can sit on your bathroom floor and literally gasp for air while you're fucking bawling your eyes out. There's going to be a time for that. Trust me, it's going to come. Happens with everybody. But don't, and I guess some people will kind of be mad at me for saying this, but don't let nobody else see you crying. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, like, it depends on those people, because obviously, like, if you see me crying, like, I'd be okay with it, right? Because you're somebody that I trust, that somebody that is looking to be for my better. But I know that, like, in the situation of, like, that heartbreak and that breakup talk, I'm not gonna cry in front of that person, because for me, the way I kind of see it now is, like, it almost shows, like, weakness, and in a sense of, like, you're letting that person control you. Like, you're now letting your emotions show, rather than kind of like how we talked about. If you calmly, collectively, all right, bro, I feel you.
I think it's fine if you cry, but still being, like, that calm level of being, like, you can cry and be upset and be like, you know, like, okay, I understand. And then, like, that is where you try to end that dialogue. Because I think that it's unreasonable to tell somebody, hey, don't cry in front of the person who just, you know, did this, or, like, who just told you this. Like, I think that there's a level of, like, it's fine to cry, but I'm trying to say, like, don't drag out the conversation. Don't make it a conversation. You know, have your dialogue, have it be like, okay, yeah, I understand, that's okay. And then be like, okay, I will talk to you in, like, a day, and we will sort out, you know,
no,
figuring out where stuff is going, or whatever you need to do. But sometimes that step back, just like whenever you get heated in an argument, like, you will let a person see you angry, and being able to take that breath while you're angry and being like, hey, I'm kind of pissed right now.
I'm going to just take a step back.
We're not going to have this conversation. I'll talk to you about it in an hour or a day or whatever. Same thing. Because as much as anger is awful, a great amount of sadness and confusion is also awful.
Yeah, because you say a lot of shit that you're just, like, just kind of, yeah, like, it's just a lot of different things just kind of floating around that you're just going to talk about and say. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think the biggest thing to kind of consider when you're coming to, like, this, like, post era, I guess the most, like, what are the signs that you can tell that, like, you're slowly, like, starting to arrive at the I'm healed from this loss, or I'm healed from this wound?
I think that one of the things you do is, obviously, like I said, you kind of find that moment where you go, like, I don't need clarity, I don't need closure on this. This is just kind of the way that it is, and that's okay. And being able to sleep with that is okay. I also think that there's not necessarily a point that you will be fully healed, but more of you will be able to press forward. I think that wounds and heartbreak in all forms take years to heal. I think that there are things that don't ever fully, I think they're like scabs, you know, you just always happen to pick at them.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily on purpose, but it will take a while to heal. It takes years for someone to fully deal with something, and some wounds just don't. Some wounds, whenever they get brought up, at some point it'll bring you down. It's not always going to be okay. You know, it will always hurt when you see your ex kissing somebody. It'll always hurt when you see, you know, this person doing whatever, like, or whenever you see a photo of this person, or you have this vivid memory and you have to go visit a gravesite. It'll always have that sting. It takes years to get to the point where you can fully look at somebody or something and be like, I have fully accepted everything. Yeah. Everything is put to rest. There's no trauma. There's nothing there. It is all level playing field, like it just is. Nothing has happened. Because people are complicated creatures, and we remember and we absorb and we intake, and it just all stays there. Our emotions are ever changing and constantly evolving, and people are constantly evolving. And I think that the biggest turning point for when you know you've really hit the point where you can be like, okay, I'm ready to date. I'm ready to face, go back to work. I'm ready to face my next problem. I'm ready to, go get this thing done, have this hard conversation with this person, is whenever you stop looking at everything as somebody else's fault or the world's problem or this only happened because of this or like, why is it all happened to me? And you start looking at them as things that are learning lessons or solutions to be solved.
Yeah, I think a lot. My biggest turning point in like my healing process was looking at everything. I was like, everything's happened to me, so I can become the man I am today.
Yeah,
like everything has happened to me, so that way I can be built and molded the way that I am, and continue to be built and molded. And if I were to look at everything as a victim mentality, as like I'm a victim to everything, and this shit just keeps happening to me, rather than this was meant to happen to me because it now, births me to, think or act this way, or, I now see the world in this manner. It's because I was meant to at this time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand, like, timing wise, like, a lot of shit happens for a reason. And I think a lot of shit happens for a reason in a certain amount of time. And there are some things that aren't explainable and things that, really don't make sense and that don't really happen in a timely manner where you're like, yo, what the fuck?
There's also a lot of things that just can't be explained.
And those are the worst.
People have this innate thing where they just, my emotions don't mean the same thing that they do to you. I can try to tell you how I feel, but there's no combination of words. There's nothing I can do to tell you exactly how I feel, because those words have different meaning to you.
Yeah.
And you can't see into my mind and I can't see into yours. So there was never a level playing field, which I think is often what couples' problems can be, is that one person will seek an understanding or wanting this closure on something, and a person tries to provide it by saying these things, and then the other person is upset because that's not the closure they wanted, or they feel like this means something, when in actuality it's like, I don't know, dude, like,
it means two different things for each person. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, if you feel that, some people say that it would say like with cheating, like, some people say that like just flirting with the opposite sex is cheating, but they, other people would say cheating is like you making a physical pass or you trying to actually cross a line. And it's like, well, some people's perspective are just different on cheating.
Exactly.
And, you know what I mean? And it's like, you can't tell somebody whether they're wrong or right. That's because it's based off their experiences, what they feel is okay and what's not okay. You know what I mean? So there are just certain instances in relationships or even friendships where there might be a boundary where you're like, yo, this is off limits. And then to them, they just can't understand why, because it's like, oh, that's like nothing to me. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's just based off perspective and where those two people stand.
I think the last thing that kind of signals of you're ready to move forward or you're ready to take that next step is usually when either the sight of that person, their name being brought up, the sound of their voice, whatever it might be, some reflection of them doesn't initiate a response. It doesn't make you mad or sad or feel some type of way unless you really are thinking about it. Like, for example, one of my exes, like, the name doesn't inherently do the same thing to me anymore. It doesn't make me mad or sad. But whenever somebody specifically begins talking about this or specifically brings up things that happened, or like it is an actual like dialogue about the person.
Yeah.
That's whenever it's like,
starts tugging on some strings.
Yeah. And this is an ex from years ago, the really bad one.
Yeah.
Like it, and that's part of the reason why I also say like wounds the heartbreak doesn't always fully heal, you know?
Well, yeah, especially with very traumatic, instances. Like, you have those things where, like, you have your flashbacks and you have, like, those instances where, like, minor triggers.
I think that I've seen also how long it takes whenever it's, like, really bad heartbreak, whenever, my grandma and I can be having conversations, and one thing she says to me quite a bit is that I'm so much like my grandpa. She's like, and she'll point out all these things that I'm not really going to get into on the podcast because it's not relevant. But I can see and hear the heartbreak. You can hear the tremble in her voice. You can see, and she still cries whenever stuff gets too heavy and stuff that involves him, or she'll like just sob and say that she misses him. And it's been years. I was in high school still. There is a level of understanding that you need, whether it's in a relationship or, a friendship, of whenever somebody says like, hey, I'm ready, I'm good, I'm moved on. You have to trust them. You have to know that, like, they know what's best for them. And some people don't. I won't lie. There are some people who say, I've moved on, I'm over it. And, they're still sitting in their bed every day and fucking throwing darts at a board that has their picture of that person's face on it, But for the most part, I think that what a person who's trying to move on needs is, or has moved on, is just support and somebody saying like, I believe you, I got your back.
Yeah. And I think for me, I was definitely at both of those points where I was like, oh yeah, I'm good. And then it was like,
goes home, punches hole in wall.
Literally.
Mom took the Xbox.
Yeah. Like, yeah, bro. Like, I've been on both ends of it, and now I can like confidently say that, like, mine's a little extreme because, like, I'm a very big person on, like, out of sight, out of mind. And I've now, like, I've even kind of made it worse to, like, if I, in my mind, decide that you're dead to me, like, you don't exist in my mind. And I think that's kind of one of the things that I've had to, like, build. And it may not be the healthiest.
I just don't think it's a way that you can conceivably live forever.
Well, yeah, obviously. But, like, especially when it comes to, like, if you see them again, or like, if you have to interact with them, like, and I think for me, it's just more of like when I say that they're dead to me, it's just more of like, I have no, like, I could look you in the eyes and I look straight through you.
Which is fine. But I think the out of sight, out of mind philosophy is a really good way of not coming to terms with problems and them not being a problem until that person is relevant again.
I feel you.
Which I think I've seen in you. Of like, you
Fair,
will be
yeah.
doing good for like a couple months, and then a person comes up, and then suddenly it's
spirals.
Like, it's almost like you're back to day one sometimes, and it's like the out of sight, out of mind philosophy when it comes to grieving or heartbreak is a really dangerous thing, because while it's like pushing it all down. It's like, eventually that will burst, and you will feel worse than you did the day before.
Yeah.
Of like, you kind of have to at a point come to terms with it. And I think you've done a good job of like kind of realizing like, this is not working.
Yeah. Yeah. Like something's got to give, you know what I mean? Like I'm
ice is going to break.
Yeah. Cause, goddamn, bro, your boy was going through it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, yeah, I mean, I'm to the people who are going through it, or kind of like, getting close to their, healing phase. Like, you're doing great, bro. And if you're just in the beginning of getting your shit together and like you're heartbroken and you somehow hear this,
all good things must come to an end.
Hella. And there's always going to be ups, there's always going to be downs. It's kind of how life works. And nothing really lasts forever, to be honest with you. I mean, as shitty as that is and kind of cliche, it's like, I mean, look at history. You know what I mean? It was kind of just, it made me think of what Jefe said at D&D, where he was like, most nations only last about 250 years. The U.S. is about 246 right now. And it's like, at some point, like, shit's gonna go to like fucking hell. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna run out. Your luck's gonna run out at some point. You're gonna be at rock bottom again. You're gonna be the bottom of the barrel. You're gonna be the barrel. Like, but you're gonna also bounce back, and you're gonna be at the top at some point. You know what I mean? And it's just the quicker and faster you realize that, and kind of come to terms. And when you realize a low is coming, and you can kind of see it and kind of feel it, you're like, all right, we need to start preparing for this because it's gonna happen. I don't know. I feel like you're just better off.
People are bouncy balls.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
humans can literally bounce if you throw them hard enough at the ground.
Sometimes you get a really good bounce and you keep rising and going up and up and up. And then that come down starts to happen, and then you hit and it can hurt. But then you go back up.
Yeah,
Speaking of up, let's come up.
Hello. Unfortunately, it's not really a happy moment for me because my Giants lost. But
who'd they lose to, Brendan?
Your dumbass Eagles that you literally have no idea about.
Let's go.
Anywho,
champion.
They play the Niners. It's gonna be a really good game.
Yeah.
And the quarterback from the Niners is a quarterback from here.
Yeah.
Did I tell you that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually really excited to see how it goes. I think it'd be crazy to see the Niners go to the Super Bowl and have their quarterback be from here, and the Super Bowl is here. Like, his whole school would be at that fucking stadium. Like, his whole school would be at that stadium, dog. Like, it would be, like, imagine. But I feel you. Don't get me wrong. I know you're not going to get a ticket to go see the Eagles.
No.
I know you wouldn't.
No, but also, it's a little late to get tickets to the Super Bowl.
Not really. I mean, they're a couple grand now, but yeah. They were also a couple grand to begin with, though.
Yeah.
It's the Super Bowl.
Grand.
Yeah, but I mean, it would be really cool to see like that, like homecoming hero, like hometown hero, bullshit.
Not playing for our team.
Yeah, but not playing for our team. Yeah, but still winning in Arizona, Super Bowl as a rookie, dude. As a like 5th round draft pick, like quoted Mr. Irrelevant from the draft. Literally, his name coming out was Mr. Irrelevant because they were like, yeah, this kid's going to be a fucking washout, yada, yada, this and that. Mr. Relevance here. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy.
I think that even just getting to playoffs and doing this well is something.
Well, don't get me wrong. He probably has the easiest team to do it around. I mean, you just have to do what coach tells you. An average quarterback would be fantastic in that system, but I think the plays that he's made has proven him to be like not just an average quarterback, not just a systems quarterback, because he's made really good plays on his feet and shit like that.
There's so many things about what Brendan said that just contradicted and then rebutted my sentence.
What do you mean?
You said, no, Jackson, you're wrong, but also here's why he's also really good.
Yeah.
Which just proved my point of like getting to the playoffs is like enough.
Oh, well, yeah. No, my bad. I guess I didn't really understand what you were trying to say.
That's why I was like, what? And then you were like, but he's done amazing. And I'm like, so he is good.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I mean, yeah. From what we've seen, yeah, he is really good. I would like to see like how he would perform on another team, because he has like one of the best running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and like his whole offense is loaded.
To be good at.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it also requires a good coach to know, like, hey, I have a rookie here who hasn't been in the league for this long. I'm going to make this as easy as possible for him, and as long as he's coachable enough and good enough to follow suit, we'll be all right. And that's exactly what's happened.
That gets also into, like, a conversation about, like, at what point does it rely on the fact that, like, he is just good versus, his team makes it easy.
Well, because we've seen the same thing with the Giants and Daniel Jones. Like, we thought Daniel Jones was, like, hot, trash, dog shit. And then Brian Daboll comes in, the new head coach, and he creates a system without a 1,000-yard wide receiver, creates a playoff attending team based off of purely just learning how to use the system and what he has. You know what I mean?
Still falls on you having... good.
Yeah, I mean, you're in the NFL. You have to be good. You know what I mean? There's no way you're not good.
Fucking Tommy from down the road fucking gets in that shit.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Apparently, he's just going to throw for like...
two.
Yeah, there's some random dude out from Wickenburg who can throw for 800 yards.
Fucking hobo that went to the party.
Yeah, bro. Fuck you. I hate you.
What a throwback.
Oh man, but yeah, I mean, Giants took an L. It's gonna be cool to see the NFC game. I'm kind of down for either. I mean, obviously, it'd be cool to see the Eagles win for like the NFC East, but also fuck the Eagles.
God damn it.
But yeah, I mean, that's my come up. What about you, bud?
So a couple days ago, Brendan and I were streaming together.
There's actually no way.
Brendan pushed upon me. I'm using his chat for him, where he told me to tell him his chat a story, and I said, okay, well, I can't just tell a story. I need a topic. And he goes, talk about Space Camp. And then
like joking around, obviously.
And then I was like, I didn't go to Space Camp. And then I remembered.
Like, as I was trying to come up with a topic, I was like, oh, all right. Like, I was just fucking around, like, haha, this and that. And as I'm about to spew something else out, he's like, wait a second. You just unlocked a memory. And I was like, there's no fucking way that you actually went to Space Camp.
And you're about to learn about it.
I'm here for it.
So I didn't go to Space Camp. But here's the deal. In my elementary school, there was a field trip that we took. And we had like a week worth of prep for this field trip.
Did you go to the science museum?
No.
Or the science thing in like Phoenix?
No.
Oh, okay, because I swear like everybody would do that.
It was a NASA's thing. So it was a NASA like spaceship like research thing.
Oh, that's dope.
And so we went to the center
of the universe?
Yes, where they basically had training modules where they had like mission control and then a mock ship that you would go in and have to, it was, oh, I was about to make a joke, where you would go into and do various tasks and stuff, and like different teams had, like,
I saw it in your eyes.
So you had like research development and then like your fuel management team, your navigation team, and then all that shit, right? So we got split off into pairs and then put on these different things. I was in the R&D team, research and development team.
You would be in the research and development team.
And then we would switch, and then the other half of the class would go and do the in-ship, and then we would do mission control. And so I did mission control and then R&D.
Now you look like an R&D.
Thanks, man. So we had like this whole thing. We made badges and stuff for like our space team, and then we wore lab coats whenever we were in there. So we were like our lab coats, and there's a photo in my yearbook of me and my friend Clay being in the like little room where we have like our R&D stuff, in our lab coats with our badges on, and we're doing this like NASA thing.
We're doing the NASA thing.
Yeah, so we're basically in this small little glass room in our part of the ship that is like, we have the team, the team talking to us, telling us like, hey, this is what you need to do. This is what's happening. And so it would actually be a back and forth dialogue with base control, like with them telling us like, hey, this is what we're seeing. And then us being like, okay, this is what we're doing. What else do we need? And so it was like this super weird, like almost keep talking, nobody explodes environment, but in real life. It was really cool.
That's kind of sick.
Yeah. So I didn't go to space camp, but I did like a little NASA space day, fake mission, scrim. Yeah, we scrimmed a space exploration.
It's kind of hot. It's kind of sick.
Really cool. Nowadays, I'd probably have way more appreciation for it.
Probably.
But back then, I was like, oh man, this is sick. This is super tight.
This is cool, man.
Like I'm in Zathura. For any of those who remember that movie, PETA's in that movie from the Hunger Games.
Anywho. Oh, wait, what is that, Jumanji?
No, Zathura.
Is it like a board game, though?
Yes.
Yeah, I know
and
exactly.
The house goes to space.
Yeah! That's why I was like, as soon as you said PETA, I was like, wait a second, I know exactly what movie. I unlocked a memory, bro. That shit was crazy, where like the alien came through the door and everything, bro, and they were like freaking, bro, that movie was crazy, bro.
That was a wild movie.
That actually was an insane-ass movie.
Yeah, and then the older brother, I think it's actually PETA, but he's older and is played by, I don't remember his name. He's played by an actor who's kind of like mid.
It wasn't Robert Pattinson.
Nope.
Hella mid.
Tough.
Anywho.
That's gonna do it for us here at the Podland.
We're gonna cut
Brendan,
that. We're cutting that out.
Where can they find you?
We're cutting that out.
You don't have control of that.
You can find me wherever you're looking.
You can find me at RQ on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, and Twitter.
Oh, man. Your face.
Where can they find us?
You can find us at Coming Up for Air Cast. Oh, I almost butchered that completely. You saw my on Instagram, Up for Air Cast on Twitter, and Coming Up for Air Podcast on TikTok.
And if you enjoyed the podcast, share it with your mom or a homie.
Or like your big toe, you know?
Share it, period. And like and subscribe and rate it and all that stuff.
And all that good ish.
Yes. Yep. See you next Wednesday.